To Melbourne now, where the dream of an affordable house is luring more and more people to the city's western fringe. It's the fastest growing region in Australia. But with big growth comes a big need for infrastructure like public transport. So it may come as a surprise that almost all the state government's public transport priorities aren't in the west at all.
This is an extraordinary region that I don't think Melburnians are quite on top of exactly what is happening on the Western Front.
Melbourne's western fringe has exploded.
The fastest growing region on the Australian continent. The interesting thing is that at the end of this month, new figures to be released by the Australian Bureau of Statistics I think will show that the western edge of Melbourne is pulling even further ahead of the Gold Coast.
The suburb of Caroline Springs in the outer west is a case in point.
We have 41 babies being born within our municipality every week and 52 new families moving in as well.
Many of those parents commute to the city, but if they want to travel by train, they first have to drive to a station like Sunshine or Sydenham.
Obviously more strain on existing stations which are further out outside of our boundaries and municipality.
The former Labor government promised Caroline Springs a $220 million train station. It was supposed to be finished next year, but construction hasn't even started.
Unfortunately now it seems that the now current government has decided to put this project on hold. We don't understand why. I've written to the Minister as well as the Department of Transport and yet to really receive a response in that regard. So it is a significant concern to our community because many of our residents do work in the CBD and now they're at a loss as what public transport is available to them.
Locals are doubly confused because work's already underway on a road to the site of the proposed station.
I am at a loss as to why that has occurred, given that now we have a road that's being funded to a road to nowhere.
The Metropolitan Transport Forum represents 21 councils across Melbourne. It's matched the coalition government's pre-election transport promises. Virtually none of them are in Melbourne's west.
There are certainly a substantial number of commitments in the eastern part of Melbourne.
The Public Transport Minister denies his government is favouring Melbourne's east, the traditional heartland for a Conservative government. Is there a reason, though, that so many of them are situated in the eastern suburbs?
You might have a look at the number of projects, but I'd say let's have a look at value. We're doing an awful lot in the west, and a hell of a lot more than what the previous government had dreamed of doing.
Mr Mulder cites planned rail links to Avalon and Tullamarine airports. The biggest price tag is on the $3.4 billion regional rail link, designed to split up city and country train tracks through Melbourne's west. The only problem is that federal funding has been delayed, and the coalition says Labor undercosted the project by nearly $900 million. Is there any realistic chance, though, that that project will be finished by 2014?
Well, that's what we're hoping to achieve. As I say, it's going to be tough. What we'll do is we're going to ask the marketplace to have a look at it and say, well, is there anything to be done in terms of innovation, engineering, that can cut some of the cost out of the project, perhaps? But it's a difficult one for us.
As for deferring Caroline Springs Station, Mr Mulder blames Labor.
They really didn't have a right to put a time frame on delivery of those sort of projects when they knew all along that regional rail was possibly going to chew up close to $880 million and none of that had been declared.
There's a road being built, though, to the site where the Caroline Springs train station is supposed to be built. Why is that happening?
Well, contracts would have been let under the former government. Any of those contracts that have been let, we said we would honour those contracts. As I say, the timeline for delivery of some of these projects we'll have to look at.
So it's a waiting game for Caroline Springs residents. Those watching the West closely say spend now or pay later.
The new areas of Melbourne, the Melbourne of the early decades of the 21st century, will not be in the east or in the southeast. It will be in the west, the southwest and the north.
I'd be concerned if there was an intention there to deprive our community of much needed infrastructure and services. Is this the legacy that this current government is going to leave behind in the state of Victoria?